All right, let's go to receivers. This is going to be an interesting one. We'll put Travis Hunter on the list here. He's at 3 overall on the consensus board. Tetairoa McMillan still at 7, despite some dwindling hype coming out of the combine. I think it's just a lot of out of sight, out of mind, right? Why are people not feeling great about Ashton Genty and Cam Scadaboo and Tet McMillan? We just didn't see them run, right? We didn't see them. Out of sight, out of mind. Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State at 26. Matthew Golden from Texas, only at 28 right now. That's going to be on the rise. And Alec Ayomenor from Stanford, a drop-off to 52 right here. I'm going to throw another name in there in a minute, but it all changed. I'm reading the wrong document. I see what happened here. Thank you. Let me do this again. Travis Hunter at 3, Tet McMillan at 7, Luther Burden from Missouri at 25, Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State at 26, Texas's Matthew Golden at 28. There we go. We didn't update the document I'm reading.
Nice work. Let me ask you a question as GM Steve.
Yeah.
If you were building your draft big board or your draft board or however you're putting things out there pre-draft, how would you treat Travis Hunter?
I would rank him as both cornerback and receiver. I mean, on the board, like I would rank him in both categories.
Right.
And then I would get my team together as the GM, and we would have a conversation about how to value that and then build a plan, our best plan for how we would want to use him. And then we would, talk to him, see if our plan meshes with him. If he has buy-in there, come back out of that and have a plan, and then say, okay, how do we value that? Because I'm calling him 1.5 players, not 2 players. I'll call him 1.5, and 1.5 players as a top 2 receiver and a top 2 corner. That's probably the best non-quarterback in the draft, right? So that's how I'm going to value him.
So on the Hari board, the horizontal draft board, you've got him ranked in both spots, right? You've got him ranked as your receiver and as your cornerback in each one of those columns. And then you're putting together some kind of overall big draft board. You're just ranking him wherever as a composite player.
Yeah, I would have some way of communicating the composite of receiver and corner, which for me would put him above Abdul Carter and Mason. It would put him above all those non-quarterbacks for sure.
Right.
Why?
So I think because Travis Hunter, I think, breaks the programming for however it works at NFLmockdraftdatabase.com, because he's not technically listed at wide receiver. But I think that's simply because he is listed at cornerback. He is the number 3 player on the overall big board, though, and that would put him above Tet McMillan. Coming out of the combine, that was the story, right? It's like everybody I spoke to except Trevor Sikkema had Travis Hunter wide receiver 1, had wide receiver Travis Hunter as the best receiver in this draft above Tet McMillan. Trev has McMillan as the number 1 guy, but I think that's the correct order. Well, to me, it's the correct order, and that seems to be the consensus as well, that Hunter is the top guy.
Yeah, I mean, I could buy into that. I mean, your take that he's playing fatigued, think about what he could do if he's not fatigued. I mean, those are real questions that we would have to sort out if we're in a front office, Sam, right? You have to figure out what's the best way to maximize him. And I really think a lot of Hunter's usage is going to come down to where he goes, right? If he's with the Giants and you need a wide receiver 2 next to Malik Neighbors, or if you're in New England and if they don't make a move in free agency or all these released receivers, like they need a wide receiver 1, there's going to be some teams that want him as wide receiver 1 and also see him as wide receiver 1. And I think the current depth chart is going to determine what he does. It's just harder to just be a nickel corner. I mean, you could do it. You just have fewer situations where Travis Hunter's an outside corner and you have a guy that you're going to give Travis Hunter a breather, and you have a guy that's going to play outside on early downs and then go play nickel, in the slot on 3rd down, and Hunter's going to step in as an outside corner. It's just harder to do that than it is to put a wide receiver package together with him as a starting corner.
The other problem with that way around, I think, is you are at the mercy of an opposition effectively changing their personnel packages to keep you on the field, right? So if you have him as a full-time corner who plays some wide receiver, you can determine when he comes off the field and has a breather, right? Like you can play him X number of snaps. He can be on a pitch count. And if he's playing too much, you just take him off the field. Simple. There's nothing stopping you, right? If you have him as your nickel corner, for example, or even your dime corner, and he's out there and you sort of project it overall based off, last season's evidence, that puts him on the field X snaps over the season, right? Or X snaps per game. But if a team knows that, like this is what we do, this is the package that Travis Hunter plays, and we want to get him on the field all the time to make him tired, we just run 11 personnel all game, right? We might not be an 11 personnel team normally, but if we know that's how we keep Travis Hunter on the field every snap and make him exhausted by the third or fourth quarter, we're just going to play 11 personnel all game. And now you have to go, well, now he's on the field already like twice as much as we were expecting him to be. Now we need a different way of getting him off the field. And suddenly we got to sub in a guy who's not our nickel corner. That's the risk with that way around. Whereas the other way around, it's like you control when he comes off the field.
Reminds of early Von Miller career, right? When he was playing Sam linebacker against base offenses. But he wasn't, that's not a pass rushing position, right? He's just playing Sam linebacker, which doesn't even exist in today's NFL. The lexicon, it doesn't even exist.
You can kind of trap a guy either on the field or in a position you don't want him to be if you're reactive because of the way defense is. I also think, look, everyone's going to be so focused on like how to maximize this value of Travis Hunter because it's such an unusual thing. I think there are going to be several teams that just don't care about that. Like it's in college, the maximizing Travis Hunter was also the best thing for Colorado, right? Because he's their best player. I don't think that's going to be true necessarily in the NFL, where like the theoretical maximum impact or value that Travis Hunter can have might not be the same thing as what is the best for team X, who just needs a wide receiver or just needs a cornerback, right? Like, I think there are going to be several teams, plenty, in fact, who look at him and go, I don't care about this like fancy ancillary, two-way thing. Like he's just the best receiver in the draft to us. And if in a pinch we could use him like, Troy Brown, who had to moonlight at corner, or, Mike Furry back in the day, it's like, we need a emergency stop. Like, fair enough. But I don't have a huge amount of interest in like, let's figure out how to make this weird two-way thing work. Like it doesn't necessarily help that team who also already has like a good nickel or whatever.
I am interested in it. Not just because we see Shohei Ohtani doing it. By the way, he's trying to say that what he's doing is not more difficult than what Shohei's doing, by the way. Being able to hit and pitch, I mean, completely different skill sets. I know corner and receiver are too, but what Shohei's doing at the level that he's doing it, I think was out of this world more difficult. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, this is
like opinion?
My opinion is that the entire argument is idiotic, shouty show, like fodder.
I jumped
in. This is the
just
type of discussion that only takes place on First Take and has no business being on this show.
What's more difficult, baseball or football? Like, who's a better
You were
athlete?
talking about two things that are like uniquely impossible to achieve and have been done by one player in the last 65 years or whatever. Nobody has any business debating which one is more difficult to do than the other one. It is utterly absurd as a concept to even try an attempt, is my take on that.
I just did it. I just jumped in. Anyway, I am interested in maximizing that. I am interested in the unique ability to have 1.5 players and almost 2 players for the price of one. I am fascinated by that. So GM Steve would try to make that work as much as possible.
Like, to be clear, I'm incredibly interested in seeing it happen and trying to like push the boundaries as much as possible just to see what he can do, right? In the world of like Ohtani. Like at one point, somebody was like, there's no way that can ever happen. It's ridiculous. And then it's like, actually, he might be able to do it. Let's give it a shot. I'm all for seeing what Travis Hunter can do at the next level. I just think there are going to be several NFL teams that don't care and are like, we are just treating him like like we talked about, right? He's ranked in each spot on the horizontal board. We need a wide receiver right now. We don't need a corner. We are just treating him as the best wide receiver in this draft. And that's it. And he just comes in. We're like, hey, great, incredible college career, Heisman Trophy. Well done. You are, however, now just our top receiver.
All right, let's discuss some of these other guys here. Ted McMillan, I don't think should be falling the way he does. He didn't run. I understand maybe some questions about his speed. It was the one question I have. I don't know how explosive he is. I don't know if he's got the burst off the line. I think he's good at everything else. For a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", sinks his hips in and out of routes, ball skills, he can play big slot. He can win on the outside. I don't want to overthink, McMillan. The next group is interesting. I think the Jayden Higgins buzz. I just put this out there on Twitter. We first to market, Sam. I think we were first to market Jayden Higgins in the first round. I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to hear more of that. Big receiver in a world where there's not a ton of these big-bodied receivers available in this class, and he ran in the 4.4s, ran well enough, right? There's a 4 in the second number in his 40, not a 5, right?
For his size, is huge.
Which is absolutely huge. And he's just a really good football player. So I think he's currently in the 70s on the consensus board, 6, 7, 8, 9th overall among receivers. I think that's going to start rising. He's at 70 right now. Your guy, Jalen Royals, is at 10 on the consensus board. I could see him rising. I think that second wave of receivers is going to be interesting. Jack Besh is at 67 overall. Isaiah Bond is at 68. I don't know where he's going to actually land with all of the character concerns that we heard about Isaiah Bond coming out of the combine and everything, but he actually moves like the 4.3 that Matthew Golden ran. So it's going to be an interesting second wave, I think, of receivers here.
Yeah, well, because immediately, I think I think most people feel pretty good about the top 2. Even if you don't love Tet McMillan, you like him. Like, I don't think there's anyone out there that's going to be like, this guy's not going to make it. He's not good. Don't want any part of him. It's like you might just not love him relative to a year ago, with those top 3 wide receivers, each of whom I think would be wide receiver 1 in this draft. But you like him. Once you get beyond those 2 guys, though, then you start to get into this. Like, just look at those 3 guys there that are 2, 3, or 3, 4, and 5 on the current consensus board. Like, Luther Burden is this incredible yards after the catch guy. We comped him to Odell Beckham, Giants Odell Beckham, LSU Odell Beckham in terms of what he does with the ball in his hands. But there's a lot more projection in terms of where he plays, what he does as a route running wide receiver. Can he play outside? Is he just a slot guy, etc.? Ibuka is this kind of big slot guy as well. Matthew Golden is, apparently really fast, but doesn't necessarily show up on tape. There's a lot of projection involved in some of these guys. And then once you get, beyond that, it's not much more clear. So yeah, I think like last year, once you got kind of beyond that first wave of wide receiver, it was very, very movable just in terms of what you're looking for, the type of receiver you're trying to find, where you have the hole to fill. I think you're going to see the same thing this year.
Yeah, a couple other names just to throw out there. Jalen, we're going to go with Noel today. The latest. I'm back and forth between Noel and Noel. We've heard both. Yeah. I heard Dane Brugler said Noel, and I like to defer to what Dane says. I think Dane is the pronunciation authority when it comes to the NFL draft. So I'll go with that. Iowa State's Jalen Noel. Closest thing to Ladd McConkey in this draft. Speed and quicks. That's what I don't think he's as good as McConkey. I thought McConkey was an outstanding receiver, and then, oh, by the way, looked like he was on fast forward the way he played football. Noel's the closest thing to that. Xavier Restrepo's not fast from Miami, but I think he's got a chance to be really good. Tez Johnson didn't run fast as far as his 40 goes, but I think he still has a chance to be really good. Then you have a guy like Savion Williams, 6'3", 225 from TCU that was playing some running back for them, but needs some polish as a receiver. There are some interesting day 2, maybe even into day 3 receivers in this class who I think can make an impact. Not as deep as last year, or last year it felt like you could get some good players, in the 70s, 80s, 90s at receiver. I think it's similar, maybe not as strong overall, but I think it's a similar class. Torrey Horton coming off of injury from Colorado State. There's a bunch of names in this top 15, I think, that might, have a chance to make an impact. So I like this receiver class more than most. It's just not top heavy like it's been in recent years.
Yeah, I don't think it's great. I still think you're going to get plenty of good players. I mean, even going down, like Jimmy Horn Jr. is number 178 on the overall big board. the overall consensus rankings. I mean, he was the guy that kept hitting the fastest numbers miles per hour wise during the drills at the combine, fastest gauntlet they had. And he's a pretty slick receiver in his own right. So like I think there's going to be some good players. Restrepo cracks me up just in terms of what he measured at. That guy legitimately has like one of the closest comps to him in terms of height weight combination is Barry Sanders. I mean, he's built like a running back, not a wide receiver.
He's got good feel for the position too. I mean, it's like your classic slot receiver and everything, but knows how to get open, adjust to the ball. I think he's going to be good.
I mean, he's 209 pounds at 5'9". That's crazy.
Isn't that what Vernon Hargraves came in at? Like 5'10", 203.
Right, with all his fake weight.
Yeah, bunch of fake weight. Anything else on the receiver class?
No, other than I agree with you. I think it's better than people. I think it's because like the gap of sort of talent perception wise is like in the first round. You know, you get to those guys you're drafting at the top, and then you get the guys that are going to sneak into the bottom of the first round. But it's that like there's nobody necessarily that you really like in that like 10 to 25 range. And I think that's kind of how we judge talent sometimes in a draft. It's like, well, where are all the guys that belong in the middle of the first round? And if there aren't any, it's a weak draft. But I actually think the depth is pretty good at this receiver group. It's just that you don't love it if you're trying to get a wide receiver and you pick 18.
I see the chat mentioned Kyle Williams from Washington State. Our friend Mike Renner loves Kyle Williams, had a nice Senior Bowl, moves extremely well. He's only at 151 overall. That's around 15 to 20 on the consensus board among receivers right now. I could see him being on the rise over these next few weeks here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.